Good morning. I am Deanne Mazzochi, State Representative for the 47th Illinois House District. I appreciate everyone who is here today. In 2020, the demand for high-speed internet service, absolutely, it's ever increasing. Deployment of 5G across the state is said to be expected to produce thousands of much-needed jobs and billions in needed investment in Illinois. Progress is important. 5G technology is important. But it shouldn't come at the cost of making residents feel powerless in their neighborhoods. The communities who are represented here today, Western Springs, Hinsdale, Clarendon Hills, they have been among the first to experience what 5G implementation really means in the suburbs. It hasn't rolled out yet to other communities, and before it does, we need to make real changes. Before I took office, the Illinois General Assembly passed a law governing small cell wireless implementation. Legislators and municipalities alike were told that 5G installations, they'd be small, unobtrusive, able to be worked into existing telephone poles. What has happened in reality? Hornets' nests of dense cell phone towers going up over our children's playgrounds. Permit applications for potentially thousands of new poles or boxways in front of people's homes. Concerned residents have seen that several of these canisters contain radiation exposure warnings. They don't want that in their backyards. Over the past year, I've heard from many residents and activists as well as our village officials. I've attended meetings, researched options available at the local level, and pinpointed the main areas of concern, especially those involving local health impacts and harm to aesthetic and other property values that are caused by the close deployments of cell towers, particularly by schools and homes. I take the health and well-being of our residents very seriously. I take the value of our properties and our homes very seriously. And our residents must have a say in what is actually happening in their neighborhoods. That is why I first drafted and filed House Bill 4653 to create the Local Control, Protection, and Empowering Law to change the Small Wireless Facilities Development Act. This is a start to give local residents notice and a voice when new 5G wireless installations are actually coming to their community. But our municipalities need more tools as well. And I would like to thank Clarendon Hills, Hinsdale, and especially Western Springs for working with me to craft the legislation that we are here to discuss today. I'm proud to announce that I have filed House Bill 5818, also known as the Protect Me from 5G Act. It's time we put some enforcement teeth behind the promises and representations of FCC compliance that telecommunications companies make when they install 5G wireless canisters in your neighborhood. And if you cannot comply with those basic minimum FCC standards, you have no place in our neighborhoods. Some of the new provisions in HB 5818 include radio frequency monitoring. Our municipalities can require a monitoring plan and tracking and recording daily levels of radio frequency emissions that are produced by 5G equipment. Noise monitoring, requiring written reports that analyze acoustic noise levels for small wireless facilities and associated equipment. Environmental restrictions, requiring certifications that a federal environmental assessment was in fact done and that these comply. Equipment restrictions, requiring equipment when replaced to be swapped with like for like and with the smallest commercially used and available equipment. Alternate location authority. There's no reason why we can't let our local governments propose that new small wireless facilities be installed on existing poles and within 200 feet of a requested location of any new proposed pole, so that we can protect the aesthetics of our neighborhood and limit the total number of new poles. Closing application loopholes, clarifying that wireless service providers must submit new applications when they are seeking to replace wireless facility equipment with 5G, because that is significantly different equipment with a whole new set of rules and risks. Below ground devices, allowing local governments to require small wireless facilities and related equipment devices to be below ground, particularly as new technology becomes available. And finally, easement rules. We've allowed too much laxness when it comes to putting things in areas where we have easements and right of way. When residents bought their properties, they were not expecting to see things like this cropping up in their parkways. So requiring proof of authority when wireless service providers seek to use easements outside the public way, ensuring that municipalities have the proper oversight authority to make sure that they actually are complying with the terms of those easements. All of this is in the legislation, and it reflects the very real concerns that our district residents have about the impacts that these new wireless sites are going to have on their health, on their property values, and on their privacy, while at the same time acknowledging the realities of the fast-paced and growing digital world that we live in. I have advocated for the residents of Elmhurst, Western Springs, Hinsdale, and Clarendon Hills, and many other communities who have been adversely affected by the initial 5G wireless plan rollouts, and we do not want the rest of the state to have to suffer in the same way. The health, property, and well-being of our residents is and shall remain a top priority for me, and HB 5818 will return transparency, local control, and rights back to our communities and our homeowners.